arriving first of the two. Joe Biden, the last to arrive here in Detroit. Expectations running high, of course, after Harris's first go-around with the former vice president, who was smiling that big, infamous Joe Biden smile when he got to the hall. First by far in the polls, although the last to enter the actual venue tonight. We are back outside the Fox Theater. Jess McIntosh, Van Jones, Kirsten Powers, Jennifer Granholm, and Terry McAuliffe are here. All right, so obviously all eyes on Kamala Harris, on Joe Biden, but there are others for whom tonight is really, as we say, do or die, but it literally is. The next debate is going to have maybe half as many people. So who else are you watching?
Half the folks will be gone for the debate in September, so a lot of pressure on these candidates to make a move tonight. I think Governor Jay Inslee has a real shot. He's done a great job of bringing climate change to the discussion. Everybody cares about climate change, and he's been the leader on that. He has a real opportunity tonight, I think.
I think I'm going to be looking at Senator Bennet because...
Michael Bennet, Colorado.
Yes, Colorado, because he wears this mantle of being a moderate. And I think he may be he could be like a wingman for Joe Biden, going after issues that maybe Biden can set back on. I'll just be curious to see that dynamic.
Right, and names that a lot of Americans at this point don't know, right? This is their moment.
This is their moment. They got
to have that moment, which they need to have for polls, for money, and who are you looking at?
Yeah, well, I think for Kirsten Gillibrand, it's definitely do or die. And, you know, she's been having a hard time because she, and she says she thinks it's because of sort of the backlash for her coming out and calling for Senator Franken to resign. And there's been reporting that she's going to go after Biden on some of his, on women's issues, because that's sort of her calling card. And in particular, him opposing tax credits for childcare, you know, in the 80s. I think that's going to be a mistake, but it'll be interesting to see if she goes there, because I think one thing for all of these people to think about is too much beating up on Biden is going to maybe start to make him seem very sympathetic.
Right, to people. By the way, I said Kirsten, and I said, did I just misspeak? Because
right.
Wait, so did you see the look in my eye? I'm looking at, wait a minute, what did I just do? All right, Van. There's no one named Van on stage. Who are you watching?
I am sticking with Yang. I'm Yang Gang. I believe that this time Andrew Yang will earn the respect of the country. He's the only person talking about the robots and the technology and all these creative solutions. And last time he just kind of sat there and kind of watched the whole thing like he was observing. If he does what he can do, he will have a moment tonight. And I am still Yang Gang.
Okay, some people watching, and I want to make the point though on that. They don't know who he is. Right? If you don't live on social media and you don't,
he's a big deal.
Followers are passionate.
Yes.
All right, and that's the passion that whoever ends up winning this thing needs to have.
And fresh ideas and new ideas. And the thing is, he doesn't have to attack anybody. He's got a whole new set of ideas. I'm telling you, Yang Gang. I'm putting another bet down on Yang Gang.
Jess?
I'm going to be looking at Julián Castro. He had a great night, the first debate, and then it was completely overwhelmed by the coverage of the second debate. So this time around, he's on night 2. That means if he does it again, we might still be talking about it next week.
All right, and then you're going to have people who are being very aggressive because they know this is their last chance, right? You got nothing to lose. Look, a lot of people have nothing to lose. But, Governor, what about Tulsi Gabbard?
Tulsi Gabbard has, I mean, if she doesn't do something tonight, that's the end of it. Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, right? He can't get out of the bottom of the cellar, and he's got to do something tonight. What happens is the money will dry up. And if you're not going to be on the next debate stage, you just can't pay your staff, and you just plain run out of money. And that's what so many of these candidates are facing.
One thing about Tulsi Gabbard tonight, there is now, this tension around Iran, this tension overseas. She is a veteran. She's one of the younger people running. She's served overseas. She's very, very anti-war. If a question comes to her in that regard, she could have a big moment.
She turned a question about the gender pay gap to that last time around, so she doesn't even need one coming her way in that regard.
All right, thanks to all of you, of course. As we count down, let's go inside the hall. Anderson.
Aaron, thanks very much. Just minutes away from the start. Plenty to watch for in just a couple of minutes here with the panel. John King, I mean, really, for Joe Biden, tonight is crucially important. I mean, last night impacts tonight on how Biden's going to go about this.
His calling card is, I'm the guy you want to go against Trump. All these other candidates are great. They're wonderful people, but I'm the big guy. I served with Barack Obama. I have the experience. I can debate Trump. He has to prove that because he had a shaky first debate. The flip side of that is, what is Senator Harris's second act? You know, you don't want, it's just was noted on the last point, you don't want to just come at Biden again. You have to prove you have a bigger, broader portfolio. Can she defend her health care plan? Can she have another good performance? She built, plateaued, Now the question is, can she build again?
Does she use an attack to try to build more, or does she have a different strategy? And does he maybe attack her?
It's hard to know. I think he might attack her if she challenges him again. But I think, the target is clearly on Biden's back tonight. And what he has to do is fight back, talk about his policies, and then go big. Is to go big against Donald Trump and show that's why a majority of Democratic voters believe he's the one who can beat Donald Trump. He has to prove it again tonight because he didn't prove it in the last debate, so he's got to do it.
It's also, David Axelrod, if last night was Elizabeth Warren trying to show that she is a leader beyond just having plans, that she has energy, that she has vitality, Joe Biden's got to do the same thing. It's not just about plans, it's showing you are the one to take this on.
Yeah, well, I think he started off that way. He is the front runner. Now he has to prove that he should be the front runner. And I think you're going to hear more about Trump in this debate, partly because you have every candidate of color on this stage. Race will clearly come up. And given what we've been through in the last few weeks and the direction Trump has taken, I would think that's an opportunity for Biden and perhaps some others to step up and talk about the moment in which we're in.
I think that's right. And are there sort of any unlikely alliances that form on stage? Does Kamala Harris get sort of incoming from people like Tulsi Gabbard, who've attacked her off stage? And does Biden deliver? He said that he's not going to be polite. Is he going to pull a Paulenti and not really be able to deliver on these attacks? We'll see tonight how he comes
pulling
out.
a Paulenti,
Yeah.
That's an insight.
Yes.
You're reaching back.
Valenti was polite, that's for sure.
Yeah, he was.
So,
But that is the question. It was sort of odd. Did you find it odd, I guess, that Joe Biden felt the need to telegraph, oh, I'm going to be tough? If one's going to do that,
did.
shouldn't you just be tough?
I did, and it does raise the question, will he? I'm sure they've rehearsed and pushed and understand where some of all or most of the attacks are coming, but this is where reality hits preparation, and you don't know how people are going to react in the moment. He has to be careful not to overreact, punch down, look smaller rather than bigger, but still be tough. It's a balancing act.
But his benefit this time is that he kind of knows what to expect more than he did last time. So he's prepared, I would assume. He's got great people doing it. He's prepared for everything. He's prepared to respond. And the question I have is, does he take on, as you were asking before, does he decide to go after Kamala? I don't
on
think,
healthcare, I think, because after it will be on healthcare, not on
the
race.
issue.
And that has to be the proxy, the
Right.
substance of health care to the big issue. This is why I should lead the party. This is why I should be your leader, because I have a better plan on health care. Let me explain this to you. And I think that will be through Harris, but the target is as much Warren and Sanders.
All right, it is time. We're going to see you all right back here for post-debate coverage, including analysis, of course, and interviews with the candidates. The CNN Democratic debate, round 2, live from Detroit, starts right now.
A pivotal point in the race for the presidency.
10 candidates, each with a chance to alter the course of this primary contest.
They're backstage now. It's debate night for the Democrats.
Happening now in downtown Detroit. The candidates facing off for a second night in Michigan. Donald Trump won this battleground state by fewer than 11,000 votes. And the Democrats want it back.
Donald Trump threatens everything.
I know predators, and we have a predator living in the White House.
Tonight, a critical rematch. Former Vice President Joe Biden aiming to reclaim his momentum.
I don't believe there's anyone in this race more prepared than me.
Senator Kamala Harris not backing down after clashing with Biden over race.
There is still a point of disagreement between he and I. That remains.
Biden, flanked by Harris and Senator Cory Booker, who says President Trump is ripping apart the fabric of the nation.
Donald Trump wants us to fight him on his turf. That's not how we win.
For two candidates just beyond center stage, opportunity and enterprise. Former Housing Secretary Julián Castro.
We're going to make sure that the promise of America is available to everyone.
And entrepreneur Andrew Yang.
The opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math.
The fiercely focused, betting their campaigns on a defining issue. For Senator Michael Bennet, breaking gridlock.
They have immobilized our federal government.
For Governor Jay Inslee, the climate crisis.
We need to stand up to defeat climate change.
For Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, ending wars.
Most important responsibility that the president has is to serve as commander-in-chief.
and 2 New Yorkers, Mayor Bill de Blasio
Are you ready to fight for change in America?
and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
When we join together, brave wins.
Now, the stage is set for candidates to take on hot-button issues.
We need to stop playing games with people who are seeking asylum.
I will ban the importation of assault weapons. Done.
Their party platform and the course of American history.
Now it is our turn.
We choose hope over fear. We are the United States of America.
An enthusiastic audience at the historic Fox Theater in downtown Detroit, Michigan. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world, watching us on CNN, CNN International, CNN en Español, CNN.com, and listening on Sirius XM and the Westwood One radio network. This is the CNN Democratic presidential debate, and a special welcome to the U.S. military members, diplomatic corps, and their families serving overseas and watching on the American Forces Network. I'm Jay Tapper, anchor of The Lead and State of the Union, along with CNN's chief political correspondent, Dana Bash, and Don Lemon, anchor of CNN Tonight.
The 20 Democratic presidential candidates were divided into 2 groups by random draw earlier this month. The first 10 appeared last night. Now it's time for the second 10.
Please welcome from Delaware, former Vice President Joe Biden.
Buddy.
From California, Senator Kamala Harris.
Cozy on me, kid.
How you doing? You good?
From New Jersey, Senator Cory Booker.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
From New York, businessman Andrew Yang. From Texas, former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Julián Castro. From Hawaii, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. From New York, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Good to see you.
From Washington State, Governor Jay Inslee.
Where's my wife? I gotta find my wife.
Yeah, that's important.
Real funny night.
From Colorado, Senator Michael Bennet. From New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic candidates for President of the United States. Now please rise for the presentation of colors from the James Europe VFW Post 2233 and the District 4 Honor Guard, and please remain standing for our national anthem, performed by Grammy and Tony Award-winning singer Dee Dee Bridgewater, who was raised in Flint, Michigan.
Honor Guard. Hoot.
say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
The debate will begin right after this short break.
Welcome back to the CNN Democratic presidential debate. Candidates, we're about to begin opening statements, but first, a quick review of the ground rules that your campaigns agreed to earlier this month to try to ensure a fair debate. As moderators, we will attempt to guide the discussion. You will each receive 1 minute to answer questions, 30 seconds for responses and rebuttals, and 15 additional seconds if a moderator asks for a clarification. The timing lights will remind you of these limits. Please respect them, and please refrain from interrupting other candidates during their allotted time. A candidate infringing on another candidate's time will have his or her time reduced. We again remind our audience inside the Fox Theater to try to remain silent when candidates are actively debating. The candidates need to be able to properly hear the questions and each other.
Let's start with opening statements. You will each receive 1 minute. Mayor Bill de Blasio, please begin.
To the working people of America, tonight I bring you a message of hope. We can make change in this country. I know from personal experience it can be done. When I became the mayor of the nation's largest city, I set us on a path of bold change. They said it couldn't be done, but we gave pre-K to every child for free. We got rid of stop and frisk, and we lowered crime. We raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Yes, it can be done. Now, tonight, we have to get to the heart and soul of who we are as Democrats. There are good people on this stage, but there are real differences. Joe Biden told wealthy donors that nothing fundamentally would change if he were president. Kamala Harris said she's not trying to restructure society. Well, I am. For 40 years, working people have taken it on the chin in this country. For 40 years, the rich have gotten richer, and they paid less and less in taxes. It cannot go on this way. When I'm president, we will even up the score, and we will tax the hell out of the wealthy to make this a fairer country and to make sure it's a country that puts working people first.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. Senator Michael Bennet.
Thank you. Last week, I saw one of those Trump signs that says, America, love it or leave it. And it was on the outside of a church. I love America, and I know we can make it better. Before coming to the Senate, I ran a large urban school district where most of the kids live in poverty. Those kids have exactly the same hopes that I had. Their parents have exactly the same hopes for them that my parents had for me, and that Susan and I have for our 3 children. But for the last 3 years, we've been consumed by a president who frankly doesn't give a damn about your kids or mine. Mr. President, kids belong in classrooms, not cages. And they deserve something better than a bully in the White House. Let's end this 3-ring circus in Washington. And let's make this election.
Governor Jay Inslee.
Good evening. I'm Jay Inslee. I am running for president because the people in this room and the Democrats watching tonight are the last best hope for humanity on this planet. If we make defeating the climate crisis the top priority of the United States, we will have a fighting chance to save ourselves and our children's future. It has to be our top priority. My plan is one of national mobilization, quickly bringing 100% clean energy to Americans, creating 8 million good union jobs. This is a big, bold, ambitious plan for clean energy for a big, bold, ambitious nation. Middle ground approaches are not enough. We must confront the fossil fuel industry. I've been working on this for 25 years, and now we know this. We are at a tipping point, and whether we shrink from this challenge or rise to it is the vital question of our time. We Democrats believe we can still do big things in this nation. We can defeat the climate crisis. Let's get to work.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
My grandmother taught me that nothing's impossible. She spent 2 generations organizing women in upstate New York. My mother taught me nothing's impossible. She was one of only 3 women in her law school class and worked with gay couples for basic rights. If you want to get something done, just tell me it's impossible. As a freshman senator, I was told you couldn't repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Even members of my own party told me it wasn't convenient. When are civil rights ever convenient? We stood up to the Pentagon and we got it done. Not impossible. 10 years ago, I was told you couldn't pass health care for our 9/11 first responders, those heroes who raced up the towers when others were coming down. Even when Congress turned its back on them, we kept fighting. Just last week, we made the 9/11 health bill permanent. Beating Donald Trump, definitely not impossible. We need a nominee who will take on the big fights and win. We need a nominee who doesn't know the meaning of impossible.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
I love our country. It's why I enlisted after 9/11. Why I've served as a soldier for over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East, and serve in Congress now for almost 7 years. I know what patriotism is, and I've known many great patriots throughout my life. And let me tell you this, Donald Trump is not behaving like a patriot. As president, I will bring this spirit of real patriotism to the White House, serving the interests of all Americans, not just the rich and powerful. I'll fight for our rights and freedoms of all Americans, upholding these principles in our Constitution upon which our country was founded. Fighting for justice and equality for all. Fighting for every single American, regardless of race or religion, as we strive towards that more perfect union. And as president, I'll bring this unifying spirit of love for country and the soldiers' values of service above self to the White House, truly leading a government of, by, and for the people.
Secretary Julián Castro.
Thank you, Dana, and good evening. You know, just a few days ago, we were reminded and inspired by our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico that public service is not fundamentally about any of us. It's about you and your family. I want you to know that if I'm elected president, that I will work hard every single day so that you and your family can have good health care when you need it, so that your children and grandchildren can get a good education, so that they can reach their dreams, and that you can have good job opportunities, whether you live here in a big city like Detroit or in a small town in our country. I know we have a wonderful, special nation, but that too many people are struggling. And I know what that's like too. You know, I grew up with a single mom in a poor neighborhood. But like many of you, I don't want to make America anything again. I don't want us to go backward. We're not going back to the past. We're not going back where we came from. We're going to move forward. We're going to make America better than it's ever been in the years to come. Let's do that together.
Andrew Yang.
If you've heard anything about me and my campaign, you've heard that someone is running for president who wants to give every American $1,000 a month. I know this may sound like a gimmick, but this is a deeply American idea, from Thomas Paine to Martin Luther King to today. Let me tell you why we need to do it and how we pay for it. Why do we need to do it? We already automated away millions of manufacturing jobs, and chances are your job could be next. If you don't believe me, just ask an auto worker here in Detroit. How do we pay for it? Raise your hand in the crowd if you've seen stores closing where you live. It is not just you. Amazon is closing 30% of America's stores and malls and paying zero in taxes while doing it. We need to do the opposite of much of what we're doing right now, and the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. So let me share the math. $1,000 a month for every adult would be $461 million every month right here in Detroit alone. The automation of our jobs is a central challenge facing us today. It is why Donald Trump is our president, and any politician not addressing it is failing the American people.
Senator Cory Booker.
Thank you, Dana. Last week, the President of the United States attacked an American city calling it a disgusting, rat-infested, rodent mess. We need a nation that understands that these tired, old language,
Stand by, Senator.
I will stand by.
Please stand by. Please continue, Senator.
Thank you very much. Donald Trump, from Charleston to Baltimore to even the border, is using the tired old language of demagogues, of fearmongers, of racists to try to divide our country against itself. We know who Donald Trump is, but in this election, the question is, who are we as a people? We have serious problems in America. We have deep wounds and seriously, deeply rooted challenges. We desperately need to heal as a nation and move forward. Because we know in this country that our fates are united, that we have a common destiny. The call of this election is the call to unite in common cause and common purpose. That's how we will beat Donald Trump. That's how I will beat Donald Trump. And as your president, that's how I will govern and move us forward together.
Senator Kamala Harris.
This is an inflection moment in the history of our country. I think we all know that. This is a moment in time that is requiring us each as individuals and collectively to look in a mirror and ask a question. That question being, who are we? And I think most of us know that part of the answer to that question is we are better than this. So this then becomes a moment that we must fight for the best of who we are. And fight, of course, we will. And this is not a new fight for us as Americans. We have always been prepared to fight for our ideals. We have always been a nation that fights for the best of who we are. And I'll tell you, I come from fighters. My parents met when they were active in the civil rights movement. My sister Maya and I joke, we grew up surrounded by a bunch of adults who spent full-time marching and shouting about this thing called justice. And I am prepared to march with you, to fight with you for the best of who we are and to successfully prosecute the case of 4 more years of Donald Trump and against him.
Vice President Joe Biden.
Tonight, I think Democrats are expecting some engagement here, and I expect we'll get it. I'm running for president to restore the soul of this country. You know, we have a president, as everybody's acknowledged here, every day is ripping at the social fabric of this country. But no one man has the capacity to rip that apart. It's too strong. We're too good. Just look at this stage, made up of very diverse people from diverse backgrounds, went on to be mayors, senators, governors, congresswomen, members of the cabinet, and yes, even a vice president. Mr. President, this is America. And we are strong and great because of this diversity, Mr. President, not in spite of it, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, let's get something straight. We love it. We are not leaving it. We are here to stay, and we're certainly not going to leave it to you.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. I want to start the debate with one of the top priorities for Democratic voters, and that is health care. Senator Harris, this week you released a new health care plan, which would preserve private insurance and take 10 years to phase in. Vice President Biden's campaign calls your plan, quote, a have it every which way approach, and says it's just part of a confusing pattern of equivocating about your health care stance. What do you say to that?
Well, they're probably confused because they've not read it. But the reality is that I have been spending time in this campaign listening to American families, listening to experts, listening to healthcare providers. And what I came away with is a very clear understanding that I needed to create a plan that was responsive to the needs of the American people, responsive to their needs, understanding that insurance companies have been jacking up the prices for far too long, that American families have to be held down by deductibles and co-pays and premiums that can cause them bankruptcy. I listened to the American families who said 4 years is just not enough to transition into this new plan, so I devised a plan where it's going to be 10 years of a transition. I listened to American families who said, I want an option that will be under your Medicare system that allows a private plan. So I designed a plan where, yes, responsive to the needs of American families, there will be a public plan under my plan for Medicare and a private plan under my plan for Medicare. Because the bottom line is this: we must agree that access to health care must be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And in America today, far too many people, in fact, 30 million people, are going without access to health care.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Biden, your response.
Well, my response is that the senators had several plans so far. And anytime someone tells you you're going to get something good in 10 years, you should wonder why it takes 10 years. If you notice, there's no talk about the fact that the plan in 10 years will cost $3 trillion. You will lose your employer-based insurance. And in fact, you know, this is the single most important issue facing the public. And to be very blunt and to be very straightforward, you can't beat President Trump with double talk on this plan.
Your response, Senator Harris?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Vice President Biden, you're just simply inaccurate in what you're describing. The reality is that our plan will bring health care to all Americans under a Medicare for All system. Our plan will allow people to start signing up on the first day. Babies will be born into our plan, and right now 4 million babies almost are born every day in America, or every year in America. Under our plan, we will ensure that everyone has access to health care. Your plan, by contrast, leaves out almost 10 million Americans. So I think that you should really think about what you're saying, but be reflective and understand that the people of America want access to health care and do not want cost to be their barrier to getting it.
Senator Harris, thank you. Vice President Biden, your response?
The plan, no matter how you cut it, costs $3 trillion when it is in fact employed. Number one, 10 years from now, after 2 terms of the senator being president, after her time. Secondly, it will require middle-class taxes to go up, not down. Thirdly, it will eliminate employer-based insurance. And fourthly, what happens in the meantime?
I'd like to respond. First of all, the cost of doing nothing is far too expensive. Second, we are now paying $3 trillion a year for health care in America. Over the next 10 years, it's probably going to be $6 trillion. We must act. My plan is about immediately allowing people to sign up and get into coverage. Right now in America, we have seniors who every day, millions of seniors, are going into the Medicare system. And they are getting full coverage and the kind of coverage they need. All people should have access to health care, and cost should not be their barrier.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Mayor de Blasio.